Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest episode of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. The brothers Max and here, your hosts Nate and my brother Aaron.
Hello, everybody.
And we are going to once again this week be continuing our journey through the PWI 500 from 1995. We left off last week with Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman at number 221. And I just wanted to let you all know, if you have not yet seen, really quick, we aren't going to do a big discussion here, obviously, because we're going to be doing episodes discussing the Hall of Fame. But this year's class of the We Can't Wrestle podcast Hall of Fame is official, and they are as follows: Ricky Steamboat, Sherry Martel, The Midnight Express, Arn Anderson, Bob Backlund, Ravishing Rick Rude, the Von Erichs, and John Cena. Those are your 8 inductees into the 2024 class of the We Can't Wrestle podcast Hall of Fame. And it is official. Back to the drawing board. 5 years. I was not able to get Ricky Dozon into the Hall of Fame. So he goes back to the nominating process for next year. And then the 2 that are on the bubble, I think for next year, it'll be their 5th year on the ballot. I believe it'll be The Rock and Mick Foley. So we'll see how that goes. But we have our class, and we will be discussing, after we get done with this series, that'll be the next few episodes we do will be the Hall of Fame conversations.
All right.
So we're going to start off this week's PWI 500 from 1995 with number 220. A guy I know you and I are both a fan of is Dutch Mantell, 5'11", 224, 22 years pro in 95. This veteran competitor has wrestled throughout the world. Most recently, he has been competing in Puerto Rico and feuding with Carlos Colon, has held numerous belts in several federations, calls his leather whip Shoe Baby. Also in the WWF as Uncle Zebekiah, manager of Eli and Jacob Blue.
And yes, I am a fan of Dutch. I'm more of a fan of Dutch outside of the ring than in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
But just with his character or whatever, I enjoyed his character when he was in Memphis. If I'd had to go off wrestling angles or whatever, I liked it. I like him better there. But out of it, his mind and being a manager and his take on things and shit like that, I enjoy.
Also an underrated color commentator when he did the color commentary in Smoky Mountain.
Yeah. And that was good shit. Like he said, Brian Lee was a school shooter and couldn't read and
I mean, at this point, 95, the Uncle Zeb thing was fine with Eli and Jacob Blue. The WWF was very gimmick heavy anyway. It got him a shot in the Federation, and it was probably that gimmick. I'm not a fan of the Harris brothers, but that gimmick with Dutch was probably my favorite point in their career, honestly.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was doing more probably behind the scenes, like I said, probably doing more than just managing the Blue Brothers, you know what I mean? Like he's probably being a working agent, I would assume. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I enjoy the guy, and there's certain things now that he talks about that I maybe don't agree with, but.
And let's see, 219, Junkyard Dog, 6'3", 305, 16 years pro, now competing in the NWC, occasionally appears on other independent cards, has managed to keep weight down after dropping a few pounds last year, popular competitor whose best maneuver remains the headbutt. I mean, at this point in 95, JYD, like this thing says, he's wrestling on the indies. He's getting a little bit better shape for a minute, and then he kind of reverts back, but he's long past his glory days at this point.
He's Armory touring that shit. Like, I don't know where he would have been at. I'm assuming he's probably
Carolinas, maybe.
Yeah, like he's down on that circuit. I don't see him up in like the Northeast with like Honky Tonk Man and Brutus Beefcake and Valentine.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's more down down south more. But yeah, I mean that's what his career is, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Uh, yeah, I just like I said, he's I don't think, and that's why he's in our Hall of Fame, because I based my voting for him to put him in the Hall of Fame on his time, obviously in Mid South. You can't argue with that run being one of the biggest regional runs in pro wrestling history. And then for a good year and a half during the national expansion, he was valuable as a second big baby face next to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I mean that first year he was probably, like you said, second most popular guy. Probably like what him, probably like what Hogan, JYD, and Tito.
Yeah, yeah, and then the they turned him so much you can't really get a good measure for how over at that time Orndorff was as a face, but he always seemed to be over when he was a
Yeah.
face. But yeah, you're right. Probably Tito, JYD, and Hogan.
And Orndorff, like how do I say, like I don't. The reason I wouldn't say, I don't know, we're talking about JYD, but the reason I don't talk about Orndorff in that is because Orndorff wasn't a face because he was popular. Like they turned him face to turn him heel. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Like that was a gimmick turn, like or like an angle turn. It wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
Steve Austin got over. I'm not even saying Orndorff didn't get over as a face, but that's not why they turned him. They
Right.
didn't turn him because he was getting cheered by the crowd. They turned him because they said, "Hey, we're gonna work you with Hogan as his partner for 6 months or however long it was, and then you're gonna turn on him."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's why I don't see it that way. But yeah, I'd say it was like Tito and JYD. You might be able to flip either one of them. But I mean, I was always how do I don't want to say it. I know he got big and he got out of shape or whatever, but I was never not entertained by the Junkyard Dog.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the promo never left him. You
You know,
know, the promo, no matter how out of shape or whatever he got, he still had the charisma and he still had the promo. And like
and everybody liked him.
when he comes back to WCW, and Cornette's like, "Where you been?" and he says some address. He's like, "That's my mom's house."
His house, he's like, I know.
I know, that's where I've been at. Number 218 is Frank Finnegan, 6'5", 588 pounds,
Gross.
2 years
How
pro,
tall is he?
6'5". I'm sorry, 5'5".
I thought you said five.
I
I think
might
you said
have.
5'5" and 565 pounds. Like, I'm 5'8.5" and weigh 200.
6'5".
Sometimes I feel tired. Okay.
Friendly Frank has
Gross.
become
Still gross.
Fighting Frank for a while, but quickly dumped manager Tricky Nicky in favor of the fans' support. Two-time former WWA champion lost the belt to the Super Jocks in a handicap match. Delaware City, Delaware native, has also feuded with King Kong Bundy and Nikolai Volkov. I'm sure Friendly Frank versus King Kong Bundy were some real classics.
Yeah. Great shit.
There's a picture of him here. Big fella.
Sounds like it.
The one thing I will give him is he at least is wearing an outfit that covers up his nastiness. Like he's got long tights, he's got a shirt. But, all right. 217 is the Italian Stallion, 6'3", 260, 12 years pro, still the main attraction in the PWF, has resumed a long-running feud with George South, has appeared on both WWF and WCW cards, holds world record for spaghetti eating 1 pound in 17 seconds. Friendly Frank's coming after that record.
Yeah. Friendly Frank's like 17 seconds.
I'm coming for you, Stallion.
Italian Stallion. I don't know. He's just one of those guys that the more you hear it, like I didn't even really like him when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, and I even liked some of the jobbers or nobodies, as we like to call them. You know what I mean? Like, but when like Italian Stallion showed up, I was like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and that's until later on in life, when some of that stuff that he did with like George South and stuff in the PWF became available to watch on YouTube or whatever. All I ever knew of him was he was a jobber in the WWF. It was, and it turns out behind the scenes he was a crooked fucker.
Took advantage of guys, and I don't know. I don't like somebody that's taking advantage of somebody that's supposed to be in the same area that you're in. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I know we're not in the wrestling business, but just to, like at work, somebody that like tries to undermine you or do whatever. It's like, you know what? We got people above us already doing that.
Right. We're supposed to be in this together.
Yeah. Like, I forget what wrestler it was, but they found out it was like in the 80s, and somebody was stealing money from people, and they got some kind of like dye or whatever that was like, I don't know, like, it was clear until it got like wet, and then you could see like what it was or whatever, and somebody put that on money, and then this guy went and took a shower and had the shit on him, and Gorilla Monsoon like beat the fuck out of him and kicked him out of the locker room. As the story Piper said, and Piper never said who the guy was, but like Monsoon was like, the promoters are already stealing from us.
Right.
And now you're gonna do it? Yeah, you piece of shit. So yeah. That's kind of how I look at like a guy like Italian Stallion. Like, why you gotta take money from those kids?
216 is the Hater. 6'4", 265, 6 years pro, possibly the most despised wrestler in the Twin Cities area. A foul-mouthed rule breaker, formerly known as the Punisher, has feuded with Tommy Ferrara. The Hater.
The Hater.
I think it's funny.
Hate.
I think it's funny that he's wrestling in the Twin Cities and he's foul-mouthed, so I picture him with like a Minnesota accent. Hey there, you son of a bitch, you.
You son of a bitch, cocksucker. If you want to watch something funny, I thought of you when I watched it. They have on the Vault, like, it's like 25 minutes of like behind the scenes from Wrestle Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're showing like, some of the like local news interviews, and like she's interviewing fans and stuff. So you're seeing like real life Minnesota fans, like smoking cigarettes and being like, yeah, we came here to see the Bruiser kick some ass. Like, people are like, yeah.
I love that accent, and I especially love that. I love vulgarity with that accent because they sound so nice.
Bruiser kicks some ass, and they're like smoking. They filterless cigarettes, and they all look like they all look like Jeep guys. You know what I mean? And then the one interview later's like interviewing some of the big mamas, and they're like, "Who'd you come to see?" And they were like, "We came to see Brad Reagans. He's so hot," and shit like that. Yeah, it's funny stuff. I think you'd get a kick out of it. You'd watch it.
Check it out. Actually, the Vault, that WWE Vault, is like quickly becoming like the best channel on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know. Did you see the stuff with Canyon wrestling on at a SmackDown taping as Mortis?
Yeah.
That was weird to see. Like, I love shit like that. Like,
me too.
Or when they show you something that they had when they showed the matches. I don't think they have it on the Vault. I think it was on the Hidden Gems though. Like, where they showed the stuff with Razor with the long tights.
Yeah.
They were first trying them out, and then I think the Vault has the thing with there's like a promo with Mr. Fuji with Yokozuna as Coquina Maximus.
I watched that.
This shit, I love seeing like shit like that you didn't get to see, when they're just trying shit out. And then it's also fun because with stuff like that, they don't sweeten the crowd. So you get to hear like the crowd's really flat.
Yeah. Like, they were laughing at that Coquino and Fuji shit.
Yeah.
This is stupid. Yeah, we can't do that again. Jesus.
215, Jerry Estrada, 5'10", 220, 18 years pro, one of Mexico's most respected veterans. Current Mexican light heavyweight champion is now feuding with La Parca. Has plenty of superb moves, can suplex two wrestlers at once. Jerry Estrada, fine wrestler. Not like somebody I'm gonna go out of my way to watch, but anytime I've ever watched him, he was a good wrestler.
Yeah.
214. He's actually a guy that I thought was going to be a bigger star back in the day. Jeff Gaylord, 6'3", 280, 10 years pro, former USWA Southern champion, now wrestles occasionally in Texas Independence. Missouri Tiger played for NFL's Los Angeles Rams. Superb backbreaker, won the USWA tag title with Jeff Jarrett.
I think he was really good, looked great. But for one, I think he wanted to, part of me thinks that the guy wanted to be kind of a local boy or whatever. But you also look back into like his background, and he's got some sketchy shit on his record. Like I listened to a biography of the guy, and like they were going down all his stuff and everything. I'm like, okay, Jeff Gaylord got into some shit. He was also a stripper apparently, and he like painted himself green and like called himself like Big Hulk or whatever.
Shit. Well, the little bit that I seen him on GWF and USWA, I liked him, but
Yeah,
sketchy past, stripper.
yeah,
Maybe that's why he wasn't going to go to. Because I think he only ever did. I think he was one of the Knights at Survivor Series in '93.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only time he ever worked for one of the big two.
Probably teamed with his brother. War. As the Lord brothers.
It was so stupid.
It was stupid. So like my thing was like, so is his name Jeff Gay? Like that's his first like name, and then his last name is Lord?
Or is it Warlord Lord and Jeff Gaylord Lord?
Yeah. It's like Mario and Luigi Mario. Like, what's going on?
They're like Jeff Gaylord, War Gaylord.
Oh Lord, what? Oh my God.
Number 213 is Old Lemonhead, Dory Funk Jr. 6'2", 250, 31 years pro. Former NWA World Champion, is still a fixture in Japan and also competes in the U.S. Opponents often submit to his famed spinning toe hold. Teaches a Japanese language course at a Florida junior college.
The reason I say he's a fixture is because he's just standing.
He just stands there.
Yeah.
The guy was in an exploding death match like 4 weeks ago. Jesus Christ. And like, for fuck's sake.
Like, go home.
In 1995, he had been wrestling for 31 years, which means that as of this year, he had been wrestling for 60 years.
I think he like officially became like the oldest guy to have a match.
And I know we can say Jesus Christ Ric Flair, Jesus Christ Dory Funk, but you know what? Fucking Thez did it. Fucking, there've been old timers that have done it throughout the years, just didn't hang it up when they should have hung it up.
Yeah. But at least like Thez wasn't going to an exploding death match.
This is true. And I don't know if did you see any of the footage from the exploding death match? Dory was just like walking around the explosions.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, but if you watch Lou, when he was older, like he was still able to do shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you can still go. If you can still go and do some shit and you're in your 70s or whatever, go for it. But if you're just walking around and looking like shit, it's like, go home.
Number 212 is Coco Beware, 5'9", 229, 15 years pro, regularly competing in several independents, including the AWF, formerly in the USWA, where he feuded with Reggie B. Fine. Still has a McCall, Frankie, by his side, was once a tag team partner of Owen Hart. Coco Beware did what he did. Him and Honky Tonk Man probably did the best at just saying, you know what, the gimmick the WWF gave me is still gold in the indies.
Yeah.
And went out there and he just did the fucking Birdman around every circuit he could, and God bless him for it. Yeah.
I mean, he still worked better than Honky Tonk Man, but
and he probably is one of those guys too, where because he was so like beloved or whatever within the WWF, I bet they just let him use Birdman on the indies too. Like they didn't fucking. It's not none of this shit's gonna be on TV anyway. So he's still coming out bird.
Yeah, they ain't gonna fuck with it. Like if he would have tried to go to WCW or something, they would have probably been like, "You can't be the Birdman."
Yeah.
But you're just using it on whatever. Just go for it. And his Hall of Fame induction always cracks me up too, though, because he's like, and then I went to the WWF, and Vince McMahon said, "You got any ideas for your character?" And I showed him a picture of a bird. Like, do you know what a bird is, Mr. McMahon? It's basically what he said. It was like, Vince is probably like, I know what a bird is. I always enjoyed Coco, and he's one of the guys that like annoy me when people are like, oh, look at the WWE Hall of Fame, fucking Coco Beware.
Why not? He was there forever. He was a good ass worker. He was always over.
And it's the WWE Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I
mean, I could honestly say, if it's the and I know now it's cool that they put people in that never wrestled there. I'm not saying this, but I could say it's the WWE Hall of Fame. Why is Abdullah the Butcher in it? If we want to play that game, what did Abdullah Butcher ever do in the WWE? Nothing. Not a goddamn thing.
Why is Great Muta in there? Why is Jushin Liger in there?
And because it is a all-encompassing Hall of Fame now, it's cool that they're in. But
yeah, so yeah, people that say shit like that can go fuck themselves.
And there's also that, just randomly, because I mean, I know this is 95. There's that one episode of Raw in 94 when Coco comes out in that little building. The fucking crowd is going.
People are freaking their mind, freaking out. Bird, man.
Everybody's doing the bird.
Yeah, it's some fun shit, man.
And it's great because it's during that era of Raw where it was. I mean, to me personally, 94 is like the most boring year. Not that there wasn't good shit like the ladder match and stuff, but overall, watching the weekly television with all the stupid gimmicks and stuff, it's like the most boring year in the WWF. But then you have those little moments like with Coco where people are like, "Oh fuck, it's Coco Beware."
Nothing cool.
Yeah, bird. 211, Vampire Warrior, 6'3", 256, 7 years pro, mysterious fanged rule breaker, wrestles in ECW, Florida Independence, and Japan. Husband of Luna Vachon, though he has backed Tommy Dreamer in his feud with Warrior. Though she has backed, Tommy Dreamer in his feud with Warrior. Beat Jeff Jarrett for the USWA Southern title in 93. 1993 PWI Rookie of the Year. Of course, Vampire Warrior is Gangrel.
I just wish he would have been in better shape, man. If that guy would have been in better shape, he would have had a bigger career in that company. But he was not in good shape, and they put him next to Edge and Christian, and he didn't. I'm not even saying like I thought he looked bad, but I could see why Vince McMahon, with his mindset and the way he looks at things, would look at those three guys and be like, you know what?
One of these things is not like the others.
Not like the other. Yeah.
How about you, Count
I
Chocula?
always like that. Yeah. She get up there, you fat bastard.
Bob Holly. And you see that segment and you're like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
He's done.
Why don't you climb up there, Cat? Like, what are you doing, Cat? Why don't you get up there on that scale, you fat bastard? And he steps on it, it's like, you shank, and crash. I was like, Jesus. Yeah, they buried him.
I'm currently
That was Vince McMahon saying, "Go out there and bury that guy."
Yep. I'm currently watching 1993 stuff, and when the Blackhearts are on in WCW for a brief, and it's funny that fucking studio crowd, like they scream when the Blackhearts scream, they scream like
Yeah, that crowd, man. That 92, 93, like what is it, Peachtree or whatever crowd. That was a fun crowd, man.
Yep, they did their own thing.
Yeah, they liked Dennis Knight, like he was over with them. Like Tex Slazenger, they liked Shanghai Pierce too, but like they just decided we're gonna make Tex Slazenger our guy. I don't know if you had gotten that far yet or not, but like he'll tag in and there's big pops and there's big Tex Slazenger signs and shit. Yeah, it's a fun little crowd.
210 is Invader Jose Gonzalez. 5'10", 227, 26 years pro. This former WWF competitor was known for wearing a silver mask, but he now wrestles without one. Captured 2 WWC tag titles with El Bronco, one as partner, very tough and fearless.
Good for him.
209, Akira Nogami. 5'9", 216, 8 years pro, a mainstay in New Japan. Defeated Jushin Liger twice for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Struggled a bit last year, but has since bounced back. Actually, I haven't seen a lot of Nogami. To be honest with you, I always tell everybody I don't watch a ton of Japanese wrestling. Most of the Japanese wrestling, I'll be honest, that I watch is stuff where I watch people that have come to the States and I like them, so I watch their matches from Japan. And Nogami was good. I have seen the matches with Liger. He was good, but I don't know enough about him to make a big statement.
I don't know.
208, Fuerza Guerrera. 5'7", 175, 17 years pro, holder of the IWC middleweight title, former bodybuilder who combines strength and aerial maneuvers, trained such stars as Octagon, who is now his most hated rival, uses the Scorpion Deathlock as his finishing hold, also a master of the powerbomb. Fuerza Guerrera, good shit. Let's see. 207 is Demolition Axe. 6'2", 303. I hate it when they do this.
They kayfabe their years.
Yes. We all know that. Anybody that reads Pro Wrestling Illustrated knows that Demolition Axe is the masked superstar. And he's been wrestling for fucking 25 years or whatever in 95. Here they've got 6'2", 303, 8 years pro. A founding member of Demolition, often wrestles in Georgia Independence and other places. He and Smash were 3-time former WWF World Tag Team Champions. Also competed as Axis the Demolisher. Demolition, one of my favorite tag teams of all time. And I also love that, I personally love that Bill Eadie, after he left the WWF, amidst all the lawsuits and everything, was still like, fuck it, I'm Demolition X. I made this shit up. I gave Vince the idea. I'm going to use it, and they can just keep fucking suing me. I don't give a shit.
I'm the Axis Demolitionist.
Yeah, what the fuck ever. People know who the hell he is. You know what I mean? Like, what does it matter?
Yeah, and I think now I don't even know how old he'd be now. Probably in his 70s.
I think so. One of the coolest wrestlers I've ever met.
Me too. And it's a guy that nobody ever says anything bad about. You know what I mean? And like every wrestler has ever done anything with him has said, "Oh, I learned so much from this guy." I just hope that now that Vince is gone, that can get kind of pushed to the side. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I want Demolition to go in the Hall of Fame before Bill Eadie dies.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want it to be like, "Oh, Bill Eadie's dead now." So let's go ahead and put him in. Like, I want the guy to be able
He
to
is.
be able to come back and tell his story. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, not even just the demolition story, just the story of Bill Eadie. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like, this is where I started. This is all the people I did everything with. You know,
76. He's 76.
yeah, like, let that guy fucking tell his story. Like, everything I've seen on him, he still seems like he's on the ball. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So let him do it now. Don't let him get like just naturally old age. Like, I just hope it happens. Barry Darso deserves it too. Like, I don't want to downplay Barry Darso either.
Yeah.
He deserves to be there.
The the other little maybe people don't know, like the little, I guess, trivia tidbit that that people may not know or something, just to keep in mind. Also, how good he was as a heel, as Masked Superstar. He was the guy that was feuding with Backlund right before they were going to transition to Hogan. And he was almost the guy to be the transitional champion between Backlund and Hogan.
Yeah.
Vince decided to go with Sheik, which is probably a better idea because of the whole Iran shit going on at the time and everything. But yeah, so I mean, consistently a top tier wrestler. And Demolition, I mean, I know there are those people, but Demolition is one of my favorite tag teams of all time. And honestly, I like to watch Demolition more than I like to watch the Road Warriors. I'm just going to say it.
Depends for me, but the like, work wise, yeah, like, they're better workers at that time when they were compared to each other. They were a better working tag team,
Mm-hmm.
I thought. Um, I love their shit with uh uh Brett and Neidhart. That's
Yeah,
some of my favorite tag team matches. It's all good shit.
they have not as paid much attention to, because a lot of the stuff, a lot of it was on like either like house shows or matches from primetime wrestling. They didn't have a lot on pay-per-views or Saturday Night's Main Event or anything. They had a lot of really good matches with the Rockers too.
I don't know.
Anyway, 206 Devon Storm, 6'3", 241, 3 years pro, currently one half of the ECWA Tag Team Champions and a former ECWA Heavyweight Champion. Dangerous Devon debuted against Ace Darling in March 1993 and is still feuding with him today. New Jersey native, rule-breaking high flyer. Let's say you own Devon Storm.
I always liked Devon Storm. Like, I necessarily didn't always like the crowbar gimmick or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but like, when the bell rang, it was like, yeah, this guy can go, and I like him, and I never had a problem with him.
I'm kind of the same. I like Devon Storm. Not so much. I'm not a fan of the crowbar thing. I'm not a fan. I don't know. I just couldn't get into that David Flair crowbar Daphne stuff. It was almost too community theater for me. I don't
You
like it
know,
when
that's what I'm saying.
I don't
Oh,
like it when
sorry.
somebody acts psycho and acts like comedically psycho, if that makes sense.
Yeah, unless it's, well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but like, um, that's where I'm saying, like, sometimes the wrestler gets saddled with like a shitty gimmick, but they at least know when the bell rings, they can go out there and do their
Mm-hmm.
thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I think that's kind of how I can't talk. Devon Storm was with that crowbar gimmick. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like Matt Bourne when they made him Big Josh. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is a stupid gimmick. But
Yeah.
when the bell rang, he was still Matt Bourne. You know what I mean? Like, he could
Mm-hmm.
still do what Matt Bourne did in the ring.
So speaking of Big
Is
Josh,
he next?
no, but this is off
Oh,
topic, but it's something I don't know if I've ever told you this or if you ever. Okay, so there's that Clash of the Champions where Big Josh comes out with the bear.
yeah.
I forget who's commentating with JR because I don't think Jesse's there yet. Maybe
I think it
Jesse.
was Jesse. No, it's Dusty.
Okay, so Dusty.
Because they make a Jim Barnett bear joke, don't they?
No, they make a Gary Michael Capetta bear joke
Yeah,
because
bear joke.
Dusty Rhodes is like, Gary Michael Capetta might want to get out of there. That bear's coming down the aisle, and Jim Ross is like, well, I don't know, maybe Gary Michael Capetta likes bears.
Likes bear. Yeah, knew they made a gay bear joke about somebody.
All right. Anyway, 205 Ace Darling, 6', 221, 3 years pro, current WWA light heavyweight champ. Made his pro debut against Skinner in Portland, Maine in 1992. Wrestles for several independents in the mid-Atlantic area, including the NWA. High Flyer is involved in an intense feud with Devon Storm.
It's always a name you saw, but and like everybody thought like he was gonna be like, it's kind of like you're saying about that reckless youth guy or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this guy's gonna be a breakout star, and then it just never happened.
Yeah, popcorn fart. Yeah.
And every time I saw his picture, and it could be like a Mandela effect, and I could be thinking of the wrong guy, but it just reminded me of like Joey, like a like a Joey Bags.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you were a basic bottom bitch, you know, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you were as basic as it is.
204 is Jim Powers, 5'11", 351, 9 years pro. 351, Jesus. Former WWF competitor, is the PCW US heavyweight champion. Defeated Jeff Jarrett to win the belt on July 22nd. Relies on strength during matches, but is capable of executing some aerial maneuvers if he needs to. Former partner of Paul Roma in the WWF. I think 351 is probably a misprint. He's probably 251.
Yeah, he ain't 351. Like, because he was not even that tall.
Right. Yeah, it says here 5'11".
Yeah, he's 250. If he ain't 351. I mean, he's jacked, but he ain't that fucking jacked.
Old Jimmy
Whatever.
Powers.
I didn't mind Jim Powers for what he was.
Me neither. I think, and I actually, like, I've always said this. I think that, excuse me, with the tag teams he was in the WWF and then Pretty Wonderful, Paul Roma's a not talked about enough really good tag team wrestler. I mean, I know we're talking about Jim Powers here, but you know, they were the Young Stallions and they were a good fucking tag team. And I think Powers was kind of the same way. I liked him in a tag team, and then, you know, obviously as it morphed into his single star, he became pretty much a jobber to the stars. Like he was the guy that would like beat the Duke of Dorchester or whatever.
Yeah.
But
And
he's
like
definitely gonna lose to Mr. Perfect, you know.
Yeah, but you need guys like that. You know what I mean? Like you need guys that can go to the smaller venues and look the part, you know.
Do the SD Jones thing.
Yeah, and then like WCW needed those, like, because Powers wound up over there for a while, and WCW needed guys like that too, because they had so many fucking shows. You know what I mean? They can't have Rick Rude and Stang on every single show. So you need like a Jimmy Powers to go out and wrestle in front of that fifth crowd they've stumbled into the building to watch. You know what I mean? Like there are guys that companies at that time needed guys like that, and guys like that needed companies that were willing to pay him to do it. So I got no beef with anything like that or any guy like that.
203, Headbanger Thrasher, 6'2", 245, 4 years pro. The larger of the two headbangers, but just as fast and agile as Mosh, a genuine brawler. Unfortunately, the brains of the team. Wears an earring and chain through one of his nostrils. Good top rope drop kick. Those guys are kind of funny because they're one of those, and I know that they tried not to at first, but they're one of those few gimmicks that Vince just let them bring their gimmick from the indies with them. Like, I know they tried them as the Flying Nuns first, but then they were like, this headbanger thing we do, it's kind of over with the crowds and stuff, and Vince let them be what they were on the indies.
Yeah. Well, even before that, he made them the Spiders.
Oh, yeah. I forgot they were the Spiders.
They were the Spiders, and then Thrasher got to be the Royal Spider because he took the place of Jerry Lawler. But Yeah, I mean,
I
yeah,
love how
they
I love how ridiculously uncreative that is.
the royal spider.
Yes. It's one of the spiders, but we're gonna have him work for Lawler. What are we gonna call
He's
him?
the
He's the
royal
Royal
spider.
Spider. Okay.
Yeah, kind of like chic tugboat.
And you know what? They should have done it. They should have just done it, but made him Fred
Chic
Ottman because
tugboat.
then it could be the Ottoman Empire.
I
202 is Jimmy Dio. Wonder if he
don't
comes out
know.
to Ronnie James Dio.
I'm sure he does. He probably looks like him.
The Maniac is one half of the PCW Tag Team Champions Assault and Battery, managed by Captain Lou Albano. Shed almost 90 pounds
Yeah.
recently, increasing his speed and stamina without losing his strength. Now popular with the fans in PCW.
He's probably got like that straggly hair like Dio. Like I'm imagining a guy that looks like that guy on that uh UWF show that we used to watch. The guy's like, I'm a thinker,
Oh, I'm a
not a
thinker, not a
stinker.
stinker.
What was that guy's name? I forget.
Damn it, I can't
But
remember what his name was.
and there's something Armstrong or something like that. I don't remember. But
Because he
that's
doesn't he
what I
wrestle
imagine.
doesn't he wrestle Hector Guerrero?
Yeah. Because Hector comes out to Nacho Grande,
Yeah,
remember?
I think it's Frank Armstrong. I think that's what
Frank
it
Armstrong, yeah. But that's who I imagine this guy looks like.
is. Number 201, we won't elaborate. We just talked about them. 201 is Headbanger Mosh. Number 200 is the Colorado Kid. 6'3", 236, 2 years pro. Current Ozark Mountain Wrestling North American Heavyweight Champion. 1994 USWA Rookie of the Year. Holds pinfall wins over Cactus Jack, Buddy Landell, Tommy Rich, and Mike Samples. And the Colorado Kid eventually became the NWA champion. And he was another guy that he was in the magazines and looked like maybe he had some trajectory for his career, but never panned out.
I often wonder what Burt Prentice did to that boy, too. But no, I just didn't. Like, I don't want to say it. I've seen, like, I remember like seeing him in the magazines or whatever, and then finally getting to like watch him on like TV, like when we'd go to like grandma's house or whatever, and we get like the local shit down there, and it's like this guy sucked.
Yeah, he was not very good. He's pretty generic.
Yeah.
199, Rob Van Dam. 6', 227, 5 years pro. Former IWF TV champ is now competing in Midwest Independence and in Japan. Has had some wild matches against Sabu in the NWC. Excellent split-legged moonsault, kickboxes as a hobby. Also known as Robbie V. Briefly competed in WCW. And this is that time right before he's about to emerge in ECW. Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
Kicking around the indies in Japan, making a name for himself.
And we were just talking about him the other day. It's like that dude was never bad.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I've never seen him bad. Ever.
He's one of the. So I'll just equate it here because this is 2024. We're talking about 95. So let's say this is, what did he did the WCW thing in what, 92?
92 with the little, like when Bill Watts was there.
So anyway, what I'm going to say is bell to bell, probably one of the top 20 wrestlers of the past 20 or past 30 years, easily.
Yeah.
If not top 15.
Like I said, I've never seen him bad. And there's wrestlers that I really, really like. Like I consider like some of my favorite wrestlers of all time where I could say, yeah, that was kind of a bad period of their career. But it's like that guy doesn't have one.
Yeah.
There's bad periods of Ric Flair's career. Like right before he left WCW, he was fat and was not doing that great.
Mm-hmm.
There's, how do I say, like, there's bad points of, um, obviously there's bad points like Scott Hall's career, and these are guys that I consider like in my upper echelon of favorite wrestlers, and this Rob just never had it.
Yep. Rob, even when injured, whatever was going on, once the bell rang,
Yeah.
and that's what I'll say here. A bold statement. Bold statement. It might be sacrilegious, but I'd say, as far as that goes, as far as never being bad, no matter what was going on, I would put him in that category with Kurt Hennig. You know,
Yeah.
like Kurt Hennig was
It's a,
like that. Like even when Kurt Hennig was struggling with injuries, or at the near the end of his life, when he was struggling with whatever he was struggling with personally, once the bell rang, he was still fucking Mr. Perfect, man.
yeah. And it's a different style, but
hmm
like he could be like, "Hey, I was the best guy at that style when I was in that locker room."
Right.
You know, like
One.
what he said, like Shawn. He talks about Shawn Michaels being like the champion of the backhanded compliment. He said he did something where it was that when he like came back. You know,
hmm
I think it was when he came back, because would have Shawn have been there when um Rob came back and had that feud with Goldust, or when Goldust came back and attacked Rob.
Yeah. Yeah. Sean was there then.
Right. It was whenever Rob did some kind of comeback or whatever, and he
Yeah,
came back to the.
because I think at that point, Hunter and Sean were doing DX again. At that point.
He came back. I don't even remember. Okay, I can't. I don't remember the timeline of it.
hmm
I'd have to rewatch it. But Rob said him and Sean never really got along. But then he like did this thing, like Rob made his comeback to the company and had a pretty good match of whatever he did, and he said he walked through the curtain and Sean smacked him on the back and was like, "Man, Rob, I never knew you had that in you." It's like
Jesus
it's such a
Christ.
backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
Like you did really great. I never knew you could do that. Like so before you thought I sucked. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like what the
Yeah.
fuck. Anyway,
198 is Samu. 6'4", 260, 14 years pro. He and fellow head shrinker Fatu held the WWF World Tag Team title for 4 months in 1994, getting help from Captain Lou Albano and Afa. Crazed alumnus of the Samoan SWAT team, is now competing in various independent federations, teaming with Tonga Kid in the AWF. He's not yet Silky Pajamas, Samu, but
silky bottom nut butter or whatever. um, just a guy I didn't want to fuck with from everything I've ever heard, and um, I mean, I never didn't enjoy Fatu and Samu together.
same.
Obviously,
Number 197, speaking of ECW, is Mikey Whipwreck, 5'7", 181, 2 years pro. This young ECW competitor is trying his best to get to the top. Shocked the wrestling world last year when he won the ECW TV title from Pitbull 1. Scored a non-title victory over ECW champ The Sandman this summer. Still struggles in almost every match, but is vastly improved.
one of the greatest ECW gimmicks of all time.
Yep. When you think of ECW, you think of fucking Sabu, Shane Douglas, Taz, Tommy Dreamer, Raven, and Mikey Whipwreck, and Sandman. But Mikey Whipwreck's in that. When you think of that entire promotion, Mikey Whipwreck's one of the names that you immediately think of.
And I think it's one of the greatest. I don't know if I would say greatest because it was just a ECW thing or whatever, but it's one of the best ideas ever.
Yeah, and in the entirety of that promotion, honestly, probably my favorite story is Mikey and Cactus.
Yeah.
I like some of the other stories, and I know like Raven and Tommy is all encompassing, and some of the stuff with Terry Funk and blah blah blah. And there is great stuff, but I think honestly, honest to God, Mikey and Cactus is probably my favorite angle / whatever of that entire promotion.
You know what that means, don't you, Mikey? Oh, I'm gonna die.
I'm gonna die.
Mom says we shouldn't be doing this.
That's good shit. 196 is the Honky Tonk Man. 6'1", 256, 16 years pro. Competes in the National Wrestling Conference in Las Vegas, as well as other independents. Still an Elvis lookalike, still hated by fans. Had the longest tenure of any WWF Intercontinental Champion. Renewed rivalry with Ultimate Warrior in the NWC earlier this year. And I said it earlier when we were talking about Coco. Honky Tonk was the other guy that took the gimmick that WWF gave him and stretched it out for years. Still is stretching it out for years and still making money.
No, he hung it up now. Now he's retired, but yeah, I mean one thing I noticed like through the stretch of shit is a lot of these guys are milking this NWC or whatever. It's out of Vegas.
Yeah.
They're hitting this guy up, whoever's running this shit. They're milking this guy for money. Like all of these guys, all these like honkies and cocos and
Ultimate Warrior.
all NWC. Let's get as much money out of this guy as we can.
Money marks don't last long, but they pay good.
Yeah, get this shit going. It's basically a paid vacation to go to Vegas.
Let's see. 195 is Bart Gunn. 6'3", 256, 3 years pro, one half of the Smoking Guns. He and brother Billy won the WWF World Tag Straps in January 1995. Lost the belts to Owen Hart and Yokozuna at WrestleMania 11. Sorry, blends power and speed very well. It's funny.
Like it go ahead, sorry.
I'm just gonna say, like I said earlier, I'm watching WWF and WCW stuff through 1993 right now, and I'm into the point where they're doing the vignettes for the Smoking Guns, and it's funny because at first, when the vignettes first start, they aren't the Smoking Guns; they're just Smoking Guns. Because Vince McMahon will be like, "And now let's take a look at Smoking Guns," and also for the first like 3 weeks, they're not brothers.
Like cousins or something?
No, like they ride up and like it'll be like, I'm Billy and this is my buddy Bart. And then like 3 weeks in, one of them finally, it isn't Buddy anymore. I think Billy's like, I'm Billy and that's my brother Bart. We're Billy and Bart Gunn. And that's their last name. But I think at first they were just going to be Billy and Bart. Like they weren't going to have the last name Gunn.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. But anyway.
It's a tag team and like they're really good. I mean, if you go back and watch it, man, like they had some of the best fucking matches on those shows at that time.
Yeah, I was gonna say in a particularly crappy time for tag team wrestling in the WWF, they held that shit together.
And it actually wasn't like a terrible like the gimmicks. Some of the gimmicks were bad, but the teams were good.
I guess
you're Smoking Guns,
the Body
Donnas, the Head Shrinkers, the Body Donnas,
Owen and Yoko.
Owen and Yoko. Well done. You know, like if I know you're watching like 93 right now or whatever, but like I was kind of watching some like 95 superstars and they're doing like a tag team title tournament. It's like there's good fucking tag teams in this thing. Yeah, it's like it was a bad time for creative for the company, but the teams were fucking solid, man. I thought.
Number 194 is Super Delphin. 5'7", 176 years pro, exceptionally quick Japanese
on his fins.
Exceptionally quick Japanese wrestler who possesses a powerful DDT, top rival to the great Sasuke, lost to Jushin Liger in junior heavyweight tournament last year. He was one of those guys that was part of that little group that was like kind of rocking the world, like with Liger and Sasuke and Taka and all them, and he just never. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like he was right there with those guys. He was really good. I don't know what happened to him.
I don't know. He got caught in a tuna net. We never found him again.
Let's see here. 193. Takayuki Izuka. Say that 5
If you
times.
do, you're going to clean it up.
Bless you. 6'2", 239 years pro.
I can't remember what wrestler it was. It was one of the I think it was one of the luchadors or whatever. But I stole that joke from Bobby Heenan.
Yeah, it's
they do something and he's like, if you do that, you're gonna clean it up.
He used it. I don't know what the context is. I know he used it in WCW, like you said when they mentioned one of the luchadors or something. But no, he says it for. I don't know what I can't remember the context, but he says it on primetime at some point. Also, he uses that joke, but I can't remember what the setup was for it. But it's a fucking good one.
When it's not to say it doesn't matter. I don't know anything about this guy, so I'm trying to add a little bit of time to this show. I was watching a prime time and Gorilla Monsoon was like, let's go take a look at this newcomer to the business, Sandy Beach. And Bobby's like, then we're gonna watch his sister, Kitty Litter.
192 is Bobby Fulton. 5'10", 220, 15 years pro. Current Triple Crown champion of the James Hines promotions in Ohio. Regularly competes in Japan and several U.S. independents. Reunited with Tommy Rogers as the Fantastics at several WCW TV tapings this year. They didn't fare well.
That's because they didn't know what they had. I like Bobby Fulton. I like him and Tommy Rogers are one of my favorite tag teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish they would have had I don't know, they had a fine career or whatever, but I wish it would have been a little bit more. And I didn't even mind Bobby and his brother Jackie were a good team too.
Mm-hmm. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think what happened to them was, I think that for good or bad, they somehow were always overshadowed by the Rock and Roll Express.
They were, and it's because they didn't have the verbal charisma of the Rock and Roll Express. You know,
mm-hmm.
Like, how do I want to say it? They were two Roberts instead of a Robert and a Ricky.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no,
in some ways,
I totally know.
And I'm not knocking Robert either, because in a lot of ways, if you think about it, in a lot of ways, Robert Gibson was a better wrestler than Ricky. You know what I mean? Like, Ricky was a good worker and a good seller and everything, but who worked the majority? Who worked? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How do I say it? I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense.
It's like okay, let's narrow it. Let's put it like this. And I know here we go. We're talking about rock and rolls and not. But anyway, it's like if you got Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like if I team up Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall is actually a better wrestler overall, bell to bell, than Shawn. But Shawn is the one that has the more charisma. He's the one, like you said, he's going to sell and get the hope spots and so he's obviously going to have the fans more. It's going to be more exciting for the fans to watch Shawn, but the meat of the match is going to be probably carried by Scott.
Yeah. Like, Shawn's going to get his ass kicked for 20 minutes, and Scott's going to come in there and he's going to wrestle the match. Right. And that's what I think it was with the Fantastics, was It was just two Roberts without a Ricky, and this is how it was.
Should have called Bobby Fulton Ricky Bobby Fulton. Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby Fulton.
Ricky Bobby Fulton. You know what I thought about the other day? Remember that Day of Reckoning game that we used to play on the GameCube? I think it was GameCube.
It was
right?
GameCube. Yes.
Remember when we tried to make that hillbilly wrestler Billy Bart, but we forgot to put the Y on it? So he became Bill Bart.
Bill Bart.
Bill Bart from Walmart. And he danced like he came out to that. I ain't the lady to mess with. That was so stupid. I don't even know what made me think about it, but I'm like Bill Bart from Walmart coming out to that fucking Victoria disco music.
Whoa, 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 whoa. 191, Pat Tanaka, 5'10", 226, 10 years pro, former AWA World Tag Team Champion as a member of the Bad Company, now in the USWA, has also wrestled in WCW as a member of the Orient. That's a misprint.
Yeah.
Wrestled in the WWF as a member of the Orient Express.
I enjoy Pat Tanaka.
Same. And him and Paul Diamond are a fantastic fucking tag team, no matter what incarnation they have.
Yep. Nothing wrong with them at all, and nothing wrong with Pat Tanaka. I mean, he kind of took a little liberties with some of his story of his career, but bell to bell, nothing wrong with the guy.
I agree.
I always like too when people are like, when they watch. Sometimes you'll talk to people that watch old WCW stuff, or not old WCW stuff, but like '96, and they'll be like, "Did you hear Pat Tanaka had Goldberg's music?" It's like, no, Goldberg had Pat
Tanaka's music. Number 190 is Jun Akiyama. 5'11", 225, 3 years pro, already among All Japan's best, was an alternate freestyle wrestler in the 1992 Olympic team, adjusted to professional wrestling game quickly, trained by Kenta Kobashi, well-conditioned, has plenty of raw talent. I'm sure he's great. I don't watch Japanese wrestling.
I don't know anything about him either.
189, Rad Radford, 5'10", 248, 6 years pro. Rule-breaking grunge rocker made his WWF debut this spring, currently feuding with Fatu. Although relatively new, has already looked fairly good in a series of matches against Shawn Michaels. Can only improve in the WWF. Louis Spicolli, of course.
Yeah. Everything I heard, Vince didn't like him. That's what...
Well, I heard it got to Vince that he had problems, that he had his, his addictions and stuff, and that was kind of it for him.
But there's also people that Vince kept around that had their addictions too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was Rad Radford was whatever it was, but like I wish they would have seen it in him. Or Vince would have seen it in him.
Yeah, Spicoli's definitely one of the most tragic. Should have been greater. You know what I mean? Like, just I don't know.
Yeah.
Like for those of you that listen to Reliving the Extreme, we're currently watching his 96 stuff in ECW, and that might be peak Louis, and he's so fucking good, so good.
And it's a sad thing too because he got clean. And I think it was his mom died or something.
I think so.
And he just had that big relapse and did too much. Like it was like it's just kind of like I don't want to be too negative, but it's like there's a lot of times when a guy dies and there's a lot of like, oh, what could have his career been? And a lot of times I'm like, well, it is what it is. Probably wouldn't have been that great, but if he could have stayed clean, I think Louis would have had a hell of a career.
I agree.
I think he would have wound up back with the WWE, I think.
Mm-hmm. 188, Juventud Guerrera, 5'5", 165, 3 years pro. Former Mexican light heavyweight champion, lost the belt to Rey Mysterio Jr. on June 16th. Only 18 years old, but said to be a blue chip prospect. Mexican press touts him as the future superstar. Uses a scientific style mixed with excellent high-flying moves similar to that of Chris Benoit. Hey, fuck you!
Yeah. So, like, I think, what was that, 2022? He never did anything I really enjoyed. But I liked that promo. I don't remember what year that was, but that was a fantastic promo.
I like Hoovy. I like little masked babyface Hoovy. I don't like anything that was ever done with him when he was a heel. I wasn't a big fan of the Mexicool stuff. But I think as a little masked babyface like Rey Mysterio Jr., he was really good. And I think that him and Rey's matches were really good. But apart from that, I don't know. I just don't know that there was a role for him that was good after the mask came off.
Yeah, I just always looked at him as Rey Mysterio, like generic great value Rey Mysterio. And I'm not even saying like he was a bad wrestler. I just didn't really ever did anything for me.
187, Pero Aguayo, 5'10", 215, 26 years pro, one of Mexico's greats, currently feuding with Mascara Ano Dos Mil, most popular veteran in Mexico, has held countless light heavyweight titles, terrific brawler. Yeah, I mean, Pero Aguayo in Mexico, you can't deny that shit, man.
He's Mexican Terry Funk.
Yeah, dude had a motherfucking career.
Yeah. And like the older he got, the crazier he got. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, so he's Mexican Terry Funk.
Coming to WWF with them big furry boots and shit, that vest.
That's good shit.
186, speaking of big time Mexican wrestlers, is Canek. 5'11", 235, 23 years pro, one of the most recognizable faces in Mexican wrestling. Held the UWA Heavyweight Championship many times. Feuded with Mil Mascaras for many years, but neither man scored a decisive victory.
He's one of the they didn't mention it in here, but he's one of the short list of he's one of the guys that got to slam Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
And that's not a huge list. Was. Yeah. It's not a huge list, but it's a list to be on.
185, Dick Murdoch, 6'4", 280, 26 years pro, kicked some young butt in the 1995 Royal Rumble. Mean old Texan is still one of the world's toughest brawlers. Held the WWF World Tag Team title in 1984 with Adrian Adonis, which was good shit, by the way. Yeah. Has wrestled virtually all over the world. Seconded Bob Backlund for a few matches in 1995.
I love him and Adonis going to New York and shopping and shit like that.
And then Adonis going to Texas.
Yeah, that one's fun, but I think it's more the New York one's more fun. I think because they're like actually interacting with like New York street people and shit. It's like guerrilla type stuff and that. But yeah, Dick Murdoch, Dusty Rhodes, and a couple other people have always said that guy could have been, if he would have taken his career just a little bit more serious, he could have been NWA champion. But they said he didn't have the serious, like the all the time seriousness in it, you know.
And you know what? And it could be maybe he did it on purpose, because there are some people who didn't want that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want that fucking schedule. You know what I mean? Like there were some people that just didn't fucking want that shit. Maybe he just didn't want it.
Possibly.
Card carrying member of the KKK, by the way.
Supposedly. It was a Jack Briscoe that said like he did it for like what, a year and couldn't do it no more.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, every time I hear an airplane go in my house, I just hit the shutters, man.
I think the funniest Jack Briscoe story is, the Briscoes went to the WWF in '84 when they, sold Georgia down the river or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think one of the funniest stories is that they were supposed to, do a big tag team run in the WWF, and they flew into like New Haven or something, and there was like a foot of snow on the ground, and Jack Briscoe booked a flight to Florida.
Yeah, fuck this.
Flew to Florida and never wrestled again.
Yeah, I got my money. I'm out.
It's so funny to me. I don't know. It's like one of my favorite wrestling stories of all time. Like, I'll see you later. I'll see you later, Jerry. He just fucking flew home and never came back. Oh God, it gets me every time. It's funny thinking of him like looking at the snow. Like, you know what?
I made money.
It's time to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sure, like, too, like, a lot of I don't know if it's true or not, or if I'm just thinking out of my head, but Vince couldn't have paid those guys all that money at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe Jack Briscoe was like, this guy's got to pay me for like 4 years. I'm going home. Fuck it.
Fuck this shit. But it is like that's actually funnier to me than the sick horse Terry Funk stories.
Fuck it.
It's like, God damn it, I fucking wrestled for 20 years. I've been the NWA champion. Vince McMahon's giving me $1 million. I'm going home.
Is there any other businesses like that either, though, too?
Where you can just walk.
People just disappear. Like, we never saw that guy again. And not by like something that wasn't their choice, but by like their own. Like, you don't hear about like an actor just showing up to a movie set and being like, fuck it, and just leaving. Like, and we never saw him again.
Well, and it wouldn't happen in today's wrestling either because of contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Like back in the 80s until WCW Nitro and all that shit, like there were deals, like people signed contract, you know what I mean? Like yeah. there were agreements, but it wasn't like a sports type contract like it is today. All right. 184 is Ricky Choshu, 6 foot 246, 21 years pro, excellent amateur wrestler, an Asian wrestling legend, still a star in New Japan, former IWGP heavyweight champion, also won titles in Mexico, represented South Korea in the 1972 Olympics before turning pro.
Good for him.
183 is Lizmark, 5'6", 190, 20 years pro. Acapulco, Mexico native, is competing in the EMLL, former Mexican light heavyweight champion. Despite being over 40 years old, he is still quite quick and agile. Lizmark was good. His son was really good too.
Yes, I'm a fan of his son. I'm seeing a trend with this. I don't know. Kind of seeing a trend with this 500. I don't know. Would these have still been like what was it? Bob Smith?
No, Bob Smith's gone by now.
Okay. I'm just seeing a trend like that because we're at what now? What's our next number?
Next number is going to be 182.
Yeah, they're knocking out like
the foreign guys.
Yeah, some of their Meltzer guys, they're knocking them out because they're about to be like, well, now we got to start getting into WWF and WCW. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Smith's gone. I'm just looking at the front because he left in 93, I think, to go to work for WCW magazine. Anyway, senior writers, David Rosenbaum, Andy Rodriguez, Chris Pernuka, and Eddie Elner.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. Until until I heard some people talk about him, I thought Eddie Elner was fucking kayfabe. I didn't think he actually existed, but I guess he did. Anyway, 182 is Chris Evans, 6'1", 239, 9 years pro, current WWA heavyweight champion, beat former Super Jock partner Ed Atlas to win the held up title. Formerly known as Chris Wader, once again a fan favorite in his feud with Atlas and manager Eddie Reality. Very good technical wrestler.
Good for him.
181 is Lale. 6'2", 244, 5 years pro, Caribbean version of the Big Boss Man. La Ley means the law in Spanish. Puerto Rican police officer, stars in WWC. One-time rule breaker, will use nightstick when necessary. Now I'm just thinking of somebody singing the Big Boss Man theme in Spanish.
Caribbean Boss Man. It's like Calypso Boss Man. I might have to write that song.
L Hard Time.
L Hard Time, so.
Number 180, Ian Rotten.
Yeah.
6'1", 294, 5 years pro. Even less of a scientific wrestler than brother Axel. Spent whole year brutalizing Axel in Bloody War and in Bloodthirsty
much less.
W. Never known to wrestle clean matches or have clean underwear, for that matter.
Or clean as never known to have a clean body.
Briefly in the USWA when he and Axel were tag team partners. Fuck Ian Rotten.
Yeah. Fucking saggy. Like a fucking saggy, nasty piece of shit. I don't want anything to do with him. I know our buddies still try to put him over, but yeah, the guy's a fucking joke.
Yeah, fuck Ian Rotten.
Stank ass bitch.
179 is Fantasio. 6'4", 273, 3 years pro. Formerly known as the Spellbinder in the USWA, he is now working his magic in the WWF.
He did it once.
Once, and now somehow he's 179 in this 500.
He ripped some guy's panties off and shot some streamers out of his fucking wrists.
It would have been better if he would have been wrestling Ian Rotten and then stole his underwear, and he's like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, and then he put him back. Well, how do you get him back on? That's the crazier thing.
And then they just show him every week still washing his hands.
Yeah, like, oh my god. Like him and Iron Mike Sharp together. We should form a tag team. Yeah, let's call ourselves the Cleaners. The bad part was, though, Harry Del Rios actually looked good. You know what I mean? Like, I think he could have been, I'm not saying he would have been like the biggest star in the world, but I think he could have been a little something. They wouldn't have made him that fucking Phantasmo. It was so stupid. I did just think about, like, when they rip a guy's underwear off, like, look at the magician and be like, you want to be really impressive? Get him back on him. It'd be a better trick.
Sting.
Yeah, I was like, it's one of those things too. Like, it's like, I wish I would have been there. Imagine that crowd. The first time they bring him out, they're like, "What the fuck?
What the fuck is going on?" 178 is Stephen Dunn. 5'10", 237, 11 years pro. Was one half of Well Done and Smoky Mountain in the WWF, where they got a series of title matches against then World Tag Team Champs, the Smokin' Guns, formerly Steve Dahl. This aerial star is now back in the USWA. Competent singles wrestler. We talked about Well Done last time.
Yeah.
Good tag team.
Because you remember stuff from this better than I do sometimes, and like I said, sometimes I like have like a Mandela thing. Were they managed by Harvey Whippleman for a
Yeah,
minute?
yes, they were.
Okay.
Because
Remember.
there was even a series of Harvey Whippleman and Well Done versus the Bushwhackers and Howard Finkel matches.
Okay, that's what might be where I remember it then. Okay.
Yes, they were definitely managed by Whippleman.
Managed by Harvey.
Yeah, because there was that time where like Harvey Whippleman's stable was funny because it was Harvey Whippleman. His stable was Well Done, Adam Bomb, and Bull Nakon. Or no, Bertha Faye.
Bertha Faye. Yeah. They always had that sleazy manager. Like they got rid of Slick, so they had to have a sleazy manager. So
Yeah.
like, all right, let's bring in Harvey Whippleman.
Yeah, because uh, um, damn it, like Albano was sleazy, and then Slick was sleazy.
Yeah, they got to bring in a sleazy manager.
The World Wrestling Federation.
That was cool, man. Like downtown Peridot.
He had a hell of a cast of characters throughout his career through that company too. Like
Yeah.
Sid, Warlord. Started with Warlord, and then Sid, then Big Bully Busick, Giant Gonzalez. I love the, and you know why they put him with Gonzalez. Like, look at him side by side.
Yeah. It's like, who's the littlest, wimpiest piece of shit we got? Bruno.
And they would shoot those promos with them standing next to each other, and the coolest thing they would do with the promos with Gonzalez was it was like the first guy where they had to put the camera out so much that you could see above the backdrop.
Yeah, you can see the production stuff of it.
Yeah, that was neat. Back then I didn't appreciate it, but now I do.
Yeah.
177 Carlos Colon, 5'10", 246, 30 years pro, most popular wrestler in Puerto Rican history, has held the WWC Universal title many times during his career.
Colorful youngster.
Continuing long-running bloody feud with Abdullah the Butcher, also currently feuding with veteran Hercules Ayaya. And you got to give Carlos credit. In his country, like we were talking about earlier with fucking Perro, he had a fucking career, man.
Yeah, I ain't hating. I mean, that dude ruled that island. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and everything I've ever seen too. I mean, I know it was a different style. Like it wasn't like Japanese style or whatever. But I mean, he was good at that style of wrestling.
Yeah.
So.
And like you said, that island, him and Abdullah the Butcher is fucking Hogan and Andre on that island, All right, well, what do you want to do? 2 more?
That's fine, yeah.
All right, we'll do 2 more and we'll wrap it up. 176, Mr. Hughes. You got any money? 6'5", 308, 7 years pro. Well-dressed rule breaker, appears regularly on independent cards all across the United States. Stoic ex-WWF competitor, lets his wrestling do the talking. Quite agile for his size. Played football at Kansas State. Once managed by Harvey Whippleman, formerly in ECW.
You forgot about Hughes. He's in that Whippleman.
Yeah. Because he stole Undertaker's urn before Giant Gonzalez came. Well, no, Giant Gonzalez came first, and then Hughes feuded with. It's funny because he left because I think they were headed for Hughes versus Undertaker at SummerSlam '93.
Probably,
and then he was gone. So then they just went back to Giant Gonzalez and made it that fucking whatever they called it. It was stupid. Rest in peace match or something, but.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he was part of Whippleman's Rogue Gallery. He's got 2 of my favorite things ever. One is Vince McMahon making me laugh, and 2 is me making you laugh. There's an episode where Undertaker's Creatures of the Night. You know,
Oh
they
yeah,
have
they
on the
deliver
crowd
the
or whatever.
wreath. Yeah.
They deliver the wreath, and he's staring at it, and he's like looking at it. And there's like a point where he's looking, and then he goes, It's like this amount of time, like rest in peace." And Vince McMahon's like, "Good Lord, it took him that long to read that." like he makes fun of the guy, and then it's like one of my favorite things that ever made you pop with was when you're talking about Chad delivering prescriptions, and I was like, "Got a prescription for a B cat? Is there a B cat?" Like, God, you don't like putting myself over on jokes, but when I really make somebody laugh, I remember it. I'm like, yeah, I remember. But no, I mean, we met him too. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
And when I met the guy, like I know we make fun of him or whatever, but he was a nice guy. Like he
he
seemed like
was.
a nice dude.
And for the time that he was in wrestling, in the big two, in the and ECW, in the spots he was in, he always played the role that he was supposed to play very well. I can't complain
Yeah.
about Mr. Hughes. He was fine. I mean, he was never
Yeah.
going to be fucking main event in a WrestleMania, but
Not like
not
oh,
everybody's meant to main event a WrestleMania. You know what I mean?
yeah. Like I liked him. I didn't mind it when he was with Lex and Harley Race.
Oh,
You
that's a
know?
great stable. Yeah.
Yeah, like when he was in that role, perfectly fine.
All right, we'll end this week's show because I gotta pay. Um,
I got
170, 175 is Wolfie D. 6'1", 250, 4 years pro, tag team partner of JC Ice in PG-13, held the USWA tag team belts on several occasions, last losing them to the Heavenly Bodies. Still can wrestle solo, still as crazy as ever. You ain't fucking kidding.
well, he is not as crazy as Jamie.
That's
I was
true.
just gonna say Wolfie D's probably got some stories, man. Like he's probably got stories that Jamie Dundee did that Jamie Dundee doesn't even have the story for.
Yeah,
Jamie Dundee don't
and
remember.
remember.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like that dude has probably got some crazy ass shit that he can say he's seen.
But he probably won't.
But no, I mean, Wolfie D actually was he was actually a good worker,
Mm-hmm.
and um,
I like PG-13.
yeah, I like PG-13 too. But I'm just saying, like later on, that guy, like after him and Jamie broke up or whatever, and Jamie Dundee went into whatever he did, like he still kept his career going on, and like I don't know if you remember it because you didn't watch a
Mm-hmm.
lot of TNA or whatever, but you remember like when James Mitchell had his little like new church thing or whatever, and like
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
Slash
yeah.
guy that was in
Wolfie
that
D
was
was
Wolfie
like,
D in that.
yeah, was he Slash? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. So I mean the guy was talented, and I like you said I like
Mm-hmm.
PG-13 too, and they knew what their gimmick was,
Yeah,
and
and they were great for a regional thing like USWA, and then when they became, and they also did great in their role in the Nation of Domination, where
that's what I'm
like,
saying where they understood what their gimmick was.
yeah, they were the ones
You
that were
know,
constantly sacrificed.
yeah, we're the guys that are gonna get their ass kicked, and they did a good job at it.
Mm-hmm. And to be perfectly honest with you, and I'm not going to rattle it off right now, but obviously, from memory, they did a good job rapping because I can literally rap the Nation of
Yeah,
Domination.
I know the Nation of Domination rat.
Yeah. Well, that's how we're going to wrap it up this week. Speaking of rap, we're going to wrap it up on the We Can't Wrestle podcast this week. Thank you for joining us, everybody. With the holiday and everything, we've been off for a couple of weeks, but hopefully we'll get back to regularly scheduling these shows to go on. Next week we'll continue through the PWI 500 from 1995, and then we'll move into the Hall of Fame conversation, And Aaron, did you have anything else you wanted to say to our listeners before we sign off this week?
I don't know, just the regular. Just thanks for listening. Check out the Facebook group and all that, and interact. And if you guys ever have suggestions of what you want us to cover or talk about, feel free to do it.
Yep,
and post them on there.
So I was going to say, join the WNR Podcast Network Facebook group. Look for the WNR Podcast Network on YouTube as well, if that's where you like to listen to your podcasts. And we'll see you next week as we continue to roll through this 1995 PWI 500. Have a great week, everybody.